Alright, you guys, it is me again. Today, I think I'm gonna talk about a movie that I actually watched on Saturday night. I feel like it's kind of appropriate because I was so like, God, I need to watch this movie again. I need to watch this movie again. And that movie is actually Crrepshow from 1982 from George Romero and Stephen King and Tom Savini because Tom Savini was pretty um, had a lot to do with this movie as well. Who's in a couple of scenes, both in this one and in Crrepshow 2. Um, so, gotta kind of mention him. And I think I am gonna kind of talk about the other Crrepshows. Um, I figured I could probably do it all in one video. Um, so these movies, and actually, since I'm gonna be, I know, talking about the second one, there's Crrepshow 2 for you, released in 1987. And once again, obviously, Stephen King, George Romero, and Tom Savini were all working on this movie. So, I mean, actually, uh, Romero directed them, and Stephen King did the screenplay for, I believe, both of them. And of course, like Stephen King was in the second story of the first Crrepshow, and these movies they were inspired by the horror comics of the 50s, of like Tales from the Crypt, Vault of Horror, shock suspense stories. And you can definitely tell too that they were inspired by them, especially the first one. There's a lot of especially whenever like danger seemed to be coming about, like the lighting would drastically change to like that like bright blue or like bright red or magenta, like very stylesque of like the 50s horror comics, even like comics today. I think, I mean, it's been a while since I've checked out like a newer comic, but very, you get that feel of like the comics, especially in the first one, which I love. I think they did a really good job on it, keeping that kind of like comic book esque quality about them. Really, I think adds to the effect of the movie. The second one, it's been a while since I've seen the second one, but I think the second one does a pretty good job with that, especially with like the wraparound in between like the segments and everything, with the kind of like cartoon, and plus the kids like carrying around his Crrepshow comic. He's waiting at the beginning of the movie for the comic book delivery guy, who actually was played by Tom Savini. That is Tom Savini under that makeup. Is waiting for the comics and everything. So he's like riding around with this little Crrepshow comic. And just so you guys know, there was never an actual Crrepshow comic book. They may have done like a couple of issues after the movies, but I don't think that there was an actual Crrepshow. I know before the movies there definitely wasn't. But yeah, so it's just those movies. I love those movies so much. So like the first one, the first Crrepshow had five stories, and then obviously like no, it didn't really have a wraparound, but it had like five stories. And a little interesting a note about the first, actually both of them, I guess. So the first movie, the last story, they're creeping up on you. The story with like the roaches and everything. Um, that one, they almost cut that uh, one out because they were finding how difficult it was to work with these cockroaches, and they used a lot of cockroaches in this movie just for this one segment. They used 250,000 cockroaches, and the story goes is that I guess Romero found like a cockroach handler or something who was selling these for like 50 cents a piece. So he, bought 250,000 of them, which he ended up spending 150,000 on cockroaches, and that alone was the most expensive thing about Creepshow 1 was them spending 150 grand on cockroaches. So, but it was well worth it, I feel. But yeah, so if they hadn't stuck with that story, they were actually going to replace it with a Stephen King short story called The Hitchhiker, which, since they ended up not using, they had ended up using as the last story in Creepshow 2. So, thank God, because I actually really do like the Hitchhiker story. I think it's probably my favorite one of Creepshow 2. Um, and honestly, the other two stories in Creepshow 2, I do love. I love them a lot, but that last story is definitely my favorite. So I always kind of look forward to it whenever I'm watching Creepshow 2. Um, and also too, another little tidbit about the first one. So in the first story, the Father's Day one, like that ashtray, that like marble stone ashtray that Bedelia is like hitting over her dad's head. That actually is in that ashtray is in all five stories in that first one. Like, if you kind of like, you can spot it pretty easily within all of them, but you kind of have to be paying attention a little bit. So it's not like impossible to find the ashtray in the other four uh, stories, but pay attention and you will see that it makes an appearance in all five. And I think that's kind of cool. Um, so, but yeah, so those movies, and I have to say those movies, Creepshow 1 and Creepshow 2, and maybe, and I don't know if I feel this way because these were kind of like the first anthology movies I'd ever seen, but I definitely feel like these are like the way an anthology movie should be done, like just really solid stories, each story just really, really good. And honestly, I could definitely see any one of these stories kind of being turned into its own feature length movie. One that I would actually like to see be turned into a feature length movie is from the first one. I think it's the third or fourth story, the Crates, who we meet the infamous Fluffy, who is living in the crate. I love that. I love that creature. It's one of my favorite Tom Savini creatures, I think. I think I may love him a little bit more than Jason Voorhees, but don't tell anyone. The character, like, in it, that one too, especially, like, I feel very much like easily could have been a creature from, like, the 1950s. Like, it's, you know, I feel like it could have been definitely come to life in like the 1950s, like creature feature movies. Um, but yeah, so these two I just freaking love. And also too, the second story that's the one I want, in the second Creepshow, The Raft. That's the one where it has like the kids going down to the lake or whatever, and they swim out to the raft, and they're being stalked by this like acidic oil patch blob thing. Um, that one definitely like has steered me clear from ever going into a lake. Like, you would think that like Jason Voorhees probably would have made me dislike the lake. No, the the raft in Creepshow 2, that story has scared me away from ever going into a lake, because I would be like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Like, where's this blob? Some blob's gonna come and get me and like eat me and make me melt or whatever, eat away at my skin and everything. Um, but yeah, it's a good one. I like it. Um, and so those two, are great, obviously. But I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but there is, unfortunately, a Creepshow 3. Um, which is an HBO film, and it's kind of sucks that this was an HBO film because HBO usually has really great movies. They usually produce really great, movies and like television shows and stuff. I mean, some of the movies they've done are, and the band played on Cheaters, which was about the '95 Steinmetz cheating scandal. Gia, I believe, was an HBO film. Hysterical Blindness. I mean, just a lot of great HBO movies. And then there's this. And this was released in 2006. So, like 10 years old. Um, and this doesn't follow like the same anthological setup as Crrepshow 1 and 2. And I know some of you are like, how can it differ in like setup, like an anthology movie is an anthology movie? That's not the case. There are different styles of anthology movies. Most common are like how these are set up, where it's like individual stories. Each one are kind of like standalone stories and stuff. And then there's stories or anthology movies that it might be, it has like different stories in it, but it's kind of like a continuing movie. It's like one long running movie, and all the stories are kind of like tied together. Perfect example, and actually a really good example of that would be the movie Trick or Treat, which those of you who have not seen that movie, go see it. Like that's how a movie like or a setup like this should work. Um, but yeah, like, and honestly, like I said, like I don't even consider this a Creepshow movie at all. Like when people ask me, like, "Oh, how many Creepshow movies are there?" I always say two, because I don't, like I said, I don't consider the third one an anthology movie, or not an anthology movie. It's an anthology movie. I don't consider it a Creepshow movie. Um, and like I wish they would have titled it something different. Like the town that it's kind of like set in, it's called Creepyville. So I wish that they would have called it like Creepyville or Welcome to Creepyville or Tales of Creepyville. I think this movie definitely would have found kind of like its own audience and would not get as much hate as it does. Because I mean, like I said, even though I don't consider it a Creepshow movie, and it sucks as a Creepshow movie, it's not that bad of a movie. Like it's got some little quirks about it. It definitely has like the humor. I think the humor is maybe a little more quirky than Creepshow 1 and 2. But yeah, like I said, if it was called anything but Creepshow 3, I think people would kind of have a little bit of appreciation, even if they're like, yeah, this kind of sucks, but there's something about it that I like. Um, but yeah, just it's not a Creepshow movie. And I don't know. Like I said, I wish they would have named it something else because it sucks. And plus, too, like I said, you don't have anyone from like the original Creepshow movies, like Romero, King, or even Savini, who worked on this. So you have none of their input, and I feel like if even just one of them had worked on this, they would have been really respectful in thinking of what like the other two would have wanted in this movie. So I think it could have been a little better that way, but like I said, since none of them are associated with it, it's not a creep show in any sense at all. Um, and for people who do watch this, because like I said, there's a lot of hate on this movie simply because of the whole title here of Creepshow 3. Um, it almost ironically reminds me of like what they were trying to do with like Halloween 3, try to do like change it up a little bit, but it's a Creepshow movie. Like there's not I feel like there's not a whole lot that he had to improve on or change to get a new audience in. I feel like if, once again, like if you were to kind of like sit down and watch this movie and just not think of it as a creep show or ignore the title altogether, I think people might find a little, something in it like I did. I find, little things about it that, it's not too bad. It is unfortunate though that there's so many people who watch this and just don't allow themselves to have like an open mind about it and about this movie. Especially too, I feel like if you were to sit down and on your initial viewing of like, oh, it's a creep show movie, it's a creep show movie, and then you realize it sucks, like you're just setting yourself up not to like this, basically. But yeah, just for those of you who do want to check this one out, uh, like I said, keep an open mind. Don't think of it as Creepshow 3. You know what? I'm giving it a new title right now. We're we're gonna call this Tales of Creepyville. So go watch Tales of Creepyville and let me know what you guys think. Um, but yeah, I figured I should talk about this because I knew I was gonna have a little bit to say about this movie. Um, but I think I'm gonna kind of wrap it up for today. It's really kind of all I want to talk about my little creep show movies. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys have a great rest of the fourth. Guys be safe, guys, are going out tonight. So, till next time, you guys.